So what I'd like to talk about now are blocks and Wblocks. What you see here are my definitions of what these concepts are in AutoCAD. So a block, simply put, for me, it's a drawing within a drawing file. And when we make a block, you'll see what I mean by that. And then there's another concept called a Wblock. And a Wblock is nothing more than a drawing file, meaning anything that has a .dwg extension. So you could see right there on the side, I have my sofa and rug. If it has a .dwg extension, that means that it is known as a drawing file, and it's also known as a Wblock. And you'll see what they mean by these concepts. But basically, I have to open a drawing file in order to access a block, because a block can only exist within a drawing file. A block does not have a DWG extension. So just keep that in mind. So here I am at an AutoCAD drawing. And this AutoCAD drawing is the sofa and rug. So this is a drawing file. It's also known or could be called a Wblock. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to make a block out of some of the objects here. So if I look, for example, at my 3-seat sofa, I want to make a block out of this so that instead of having to click on all of the lines separately, I'm able to click on just one of the lines and it's going to select everything, and it's going to treat it as its own drawing within this drawing file. So to make a block, I can go up here to Insert, Tab, and then I go to the Block Definition panel and I can click on Create Block. There's the drop down, and there you can see Create Block, and then it also says you can write a block, which is making a DWG file. But I'm going to go ahead and click on Create Block. Keyboard shortcut is simply B and Enter. So I click on Create Block, and it's going to open this dialog box. And what I'm going to create is the definition of the block. It's a lot like a dictionary definition. When I open a dictionary, it contains several definitions. When I open up an AutoCAD drawing, it too can have several definitions of blocks. And right now what I'm going to do is make a sofa block. So for the file name, I'm going to type in sofa. And I'm going to put a dash, and I'm going to call this one 3-seat. Like that. And you can name it anything you want. I'm just being a bit descriptive here. Now, it wants a base point. When you have a block, it always needs a base point. And right now, because I started this drawing at 0, 0, that base point is fine. I'll go ahead and let it be that point. If I wanted to, I can click here where it says pick point, and I would then go over and select a point. But I'm not going to do that yet. I'm just going to leave it as is because it's already at 0, 0. Now, for the objects, I want to select the objects. So I'm going to click on Select Objects. And when I do that, that screen goes away and I'm in my Select Object mode. And I'm simply going to window my objects that represent that 3-seat sofa. And I click. And then I enter. And when I enter, the screen comes back. And then I have the radio buttons here, and I have 3 different options. And the one that I want to go with 99% of the time is convert to block. So it's going to take all of these objects and immediately turn them into a block. And you can see that it's giving me a preview here of what that block looks like. So I'm going to leave that at convert to block. Over here under behavior, I will leave this on to scale uniformly, and I'm also going to allow exploding. Under the setting for block units, inches is correct. I don't need to touch anything there. You could add a hyperlink, but nobody really does this, so I'm going to leave that alone. In case you maybe wanted to link it to an online catalog of a 3-seat sofa that you want it to relate to this block, you could certainly do that, but I'm going to leave it alone. Under the description, you don't have to put anything, but I'll go ahead and just call it a 3-seat sofa, like that. And then there is an option down here where it says open in block editor. I'm going to leave that unchecked, and we'll talk about the block editor later. So this is all I want to do. I always want to give it a name. I want to pick a base point. It's already there at 0, 0. I want to select my objects, select the behavior options, make sure this stays at inches, and then the hyperlink and the description are optional. And then I'll go ahead and click OK. And when I do that, very quickly, it converted all of those objects into one block. And if I hover over it, you'll see how it highlights everything and it tells me this is a block reference. And again, what is a block? Per the definition I've provided you, just to try and keep things real simple here, it's a drawing within a drawing file. So this is a sofa. That's the object, or that's the block that I've created. All right. Now, let's say I wanted to make a block out of my rug over here. I'll go ahead and type B and then enter. And that brings up the block definition. And then I'll click in here for the name, and I'll call this one rug. And then for the base point, because I'm not at 0, 0, I'll go ahead and pick point. So I'm going to click on that, and I'll pick this endpoint right here. And that's what will be known as the insertion point. And don't worry about the coordinates here. They don't have to be exact. And then I'll come over to the objects. And yes, I do want to convert to block. And I will select objects. So I click on that. And I'm going to window the rug. And then I will enter. The behavior stays as is. I don't need to change anything here. Inches is the correct block unit. And the description, I could put a description, but I'm not going to. It's optional. And then I'll go ahead and click OK. And if I hover over any one of the objects, it now tells me that this is a block reference. And if I click on it, you'll see that I have one grip, and that grip is located at that insertion point. I selected that point. I'll tap the escape key. If I click on this block, the sofa, you can see that that also has an insertion point. I'll go ahead and escape, and I'm going to zoom out, and I want to show you how this works. I'm going to come up here. I'm still in my Insert tab. I'll go to the Block panel, and I'll go where it says Insert, and I'll click on the drop-down. And you'll see that it is showing me previews of the two blocks that I already made. So when I click on Sofa, one click, and I move it out here, you see how it's bringing in the block. And I can put it anywhere I want on the screen. I'll just drop it right here for now. And then if I click on it and I select the grip, notice how I can move it based on that grip. I can also hover. I just tapped the escape key, by the way, and the grip is blue. If I just hover over that and then right click, you can see that I can move, scale, rotate. So if I click rotate, I'm able to rotate this. Oh, it should have picked the base point and it did not. I did something wrong there. Give me a second. If I click on it and then I select this point and then I right click, there we go. Now I rotate about that point. I'll just tap the escape key because I don't want to rotate. Just want to show this as an example. And then I'll just take that and delete. I can come back over here, insert. I can grab a rug and then just put the rug anywhere that I want. So this saves me having to select all the objects to make a copy because I now have this as a block. And if I click on it and then I right click and I go to my properties, it tells me that it is a block reference, and here is the name of the block. It says rug. So this is what I mean about a block is a drawing within a drawing file. If this were a drawing file, then it would have the .dwg extension. All right, so that's how you make blocks. And blocks are great because I can use them within the same file or I can use them in another file. I'm going to take this block and delete it, and I'll show that to you in just a bit how I can do that. So I'm going to save this file. So Control S saves it. And let me switch over to the doors. And the doors here, I also want to make blocks. Then eventually I want to make what are called dynamic blocks out of these. So I'll start with, let's say my bifold doors here. And I'll type B for block and enter. And for the name, I'm going to call this one door dash bifold. And I'll do a dash and I'll call it 48 because it's 48 inches wide. You can name it anything you want. I just chose this because I want to keep my names in alphabetical order. And the next set of doors that I create, the name is also going to be door, and I'm also going to give it a width in terms of inches. So I'm just staying organized here. Now for the base point, it's not at 0, 0. So I would like to pick a point. So I click on that. I come over here and I'm going to select this endpoint. That's the base point / insertion point. And then I go over to the objects. I do want to convert to block and I want to select my objects. I'm going to window them and enter. I don't need to change anything in behavior. I always want it to scale uniformly and I want to allow exploding. I'm not going to put anything to the description, and the settings for inches is fine and no hyperlink. And then I'll go ahead and click OK. I know it's a block because when I hover over it, there it is. When I go over here to the insert dropdown, I have them listed there too. Let me zoom out and let me go ahead and make a block out of this door. And this door, I can't remember how wide it is, so I'm going to type DI enter for distance from this endpoint to that endpoint. I'm not even going to enter because it's already showing me 3 feet, so I'll tap the escape key. And then I'll type B, enter. For the name, this is going to be door. It's not a bifold, but it's just going to be a door, and I'm going to say 36. I don't need to put the hyphen. That's just a personal preference. Again, you can name it anything you want. I'm going to pick my base point. And in this case, I'm anticipating what I may do later on. And I think I'll pick this as the base point for now. And then I'll go ahead and select my objects and enter. And I may want to change my base point. So let me do this real quick. I'll go back to pick point and I'll pick this midpoint for now. Behavior stays the same. Settings are fine. Description is optional. And then I'll go ahead and click OK. So that's making a block. And if I come up here, insert tab, block panel, I go to the insert dropdown and I have my blocks. And I can test them by simply clicking and then dropping them in. And I'll put this one in over here. Try the other one. All set. They work. I'm just going to select those and delete. And then I'm going to zoom extents. I'll save. And then I'll make one more block. I'm going to go over to my entourage. And from here, I have multiple trees. And I have trees both in plan view up here. And I also have trees in elevation. And I also have shrubs. So we'll name them anything you want. I think it might be easy just to refer to these as tree O1, O2, O3, or tree plan O1, tree plan O2, and then you're going to have elevation views, so you can maybe call that tree elevation. It doesn't matter what you name it. So I'll go ahead and just make a block out of this one for now. So I'm going to type B, enter. And then this one is going to be tree. I'll call this one plan. And I'll call this one my first tree, O1. And then I will pick the insertion point. And the insertion point is right here in the center where my endpoints meet. I'll click. And then I will select my objects. Enter. Leave the behavior as is. Same thing with the settings for the block unit, 2 inches. No description. And then I'm going to click OK. And now when I hover over it, it's a block. If I click on it, there's my insertion point, which is great. And then tap the escape key, come over here to insert dropdown, and there's the tree. And I had already made a tree before as well. So that's how you would make your trees, as well as all of your other blocks that you will need moving forward. So I leave it in your hands to make all of these blocks, and then you'll have them. Now, I'm going to save this, Control S, and I'm going to go back to my sofa and rug. And I want to show you something else here. So I said at the beginning that a block is a drawing within a drawing file, and a Wblock is a drawing file. So I want to show you how I can make a Wblock out of this sofa. In other words, turning it into its own drawing file. And sometimes it's best to make a block. Other times you can just go straight into a Wblock. So this is already a block. So what I'm going to do is type W, and that's the keyboard shortcut to write block. And I will enter. And this is the screen that comes up. And it says, what is your source? And my source is a block. So I click on the block, and then I go to the drop down, and I want the sofa 3-seater. I want that to become my Wblock. And it's showing me where it wants to place it. But I'm going to come over here and click on the 3 ellipses, or the ellipses, the 3 dots here, and I'll click on that. And it's taking me into my documents, and from here I can go to my Google Drive, and I can look for my folder in here. And you can see how it's going to name it the same name as the block, but it's adding the .dwg, meaning it's going to turn it into a drawing file. And I'll go ahead and click Save. And then everything looks good. It already took the base point and the object information from the block. And all I have to do is click OK. And just like that, I have a drawing file. And if I go up here to Open, you'll see that I have my 3-seat sofa as a .dwg. So it exists both as a block in my sofa and rug drawing file, but I also turned it into its own drawing file so that it has its own DWG extension. And I'll open that. And when I open it and I zoom in, so Z enter, E enter, here are the individual lines because I'm inside of the drawing file now. I'm not inside a block. So keep that in mind, that a block, one more time just for a quick review, that block is a drawing within a drawing file, and then your Wblock is anything that has a .dwg. So we started by creating drawing files And I just showed you how to actually take a block and turn it into its own drawing file. And then next up, I would like to show you how to use these blocks and these drawing files within other files. Okay, so I will recommend that you make the blocks as needed. You may not know, may not be sure, you may not be sure if you're going to need it as a block or not. So if you're unsure, let it be. But eventually, all of these are going to be used when you start putting your site plan together and also putting your floor plans together. All right, one last thing I just want to sneak in here. It's a little off topic, and it is this two-seat sofa. If I make this two-seat sofa the way it is, it's going to always be angled, and that might be a bit of a problem. So I want to show you how to straighten it out before you make a block out of it. And I'm not going to make a block, I'm just going to straighten it out to help all of you out. So what I want to do is rotate it. So I'm going to use the rotate command, so RO to rotate. I'm going to select all of the objects here and enter. And then I'm going to pick a base point. I'm going to use this as the base point. I'm going to give it one click. And then I want to straighten it out. And you'll see at the command line there's an option, and it's the reference option. So I'm going to type R for reference and enter. And it says specify the reference angle. So I want to start from the same point that I originally picked. So I'm going to click on that again. And then it says specify the reference angle second point. This will be the second point, this endpoint. And then I want it to go straight across, and I have polar on, so it's tracking. And all I have to do is just click anywhere out here. When I see it snapping straight across, I click. And now that it's straight, I'll go ahead and make the block out of it. And then when I bring it in, I can rotate that separate. So I just wanted to share that out with all of you so that you have a block that works well. All right, so let's try these, or let me try this in a drawing file, how to bring it in. And I'll do this real quick example here. First of all, after you make your blocks, make sure that you have saved your files. It's very important so that when you go to use the blocks, we're able to detect them. So I'm just going to use a Control S here to save this one. I'll go to my doors. I know I saved them, but I just want to make sure I did. Control S to save. Entourage. I'll just do a Control S and save that. Okay. Now I'm going to start a new drawing file. So I'll come up here to my three dots or my three bars, and I will go ahead and start a new drawing. And actually, no, let me just click on start. I think this will be better. Click on start here and then go to new, and I'll use my HWC template. And I have nothing drawn in here. But let's say I had a rug, and I'll just do this real quick. I'll go to the home tab. I'll draw a line, and I'm just going to pick anywhere on screen, and I'll just make a rug. I'll start here. I'll go across, and let's say the rug is going to be 3 feet wide this way, and I want to go up in this direction, make that 4 feet. Come back in this direction. I'll use O-track, track that endpoint, bring it up here, click on it, and then I'll type C for close. All right, I'll do a quick measure, and I have a rug that's 3 feet by 4 feet. Okay, and I'm just assuming that this is a layout I'm doing. Let's say I want to bring that sofa in. So to do that, you want to insert a block. So you can come up here to insert, and then you can go to the block panel and you can click on insert, and you'll see that there are no blocks in here. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to say blocks from libraries. Click on that, and then this window will pop up. Mine is already docked. So I'm just going to hover over it and then go over here to this icon where it says display full navigation window so that you can open up a drawing file, which is basically a library. So I'm going to click here. And then it's going to look around. And let me just point it in the right direction before I put it on screen. One moment. Okay. So I want to open up this drawing file because I know this drawing file contains my sofa block. So I click open, and then I come over here, hover, wait for just one moment, let it load the file. You have to be a little patient here. There we go. And you can see it is showing me the drawing itself. So this, if I wanted to, I can actually bring in the entire drawing in, and it would then become a block in this drawing file. That's possible. But I want to focus on just the three-seat sofa. And you can see that it's showing me that this drawing file contains two blocks. And I want to borrow this block from it. So I'm going to click here, one click, and move my cursor over. And you can see that it's bringing in the sofa. And then from here, you can see it says insertion, specify insertion point, or base point, scale, rotate. So if I type R for rotate, enter, looks like I can rotate it, but I don't see it on the screen. So this could be problematic because I don't know which direction to go. So let me just go ahead and enter and leave it alone for now, and I'll just put it right here. All right. And then I'll go ahead and select it, click on that insertion point, right click, and then rotate like this. And I'll just let it go straight like that. And then I can just click here and move it over like that. And that's how I'm able to bring in a block from another drawing. Now, let me try something else. I'm going to go back to insert, and I just want you to see it has the sofa three-seater. I can go back to blocks from libraries, and I'd like to open up a different file. So I'm going to click here. And just as an example, table and chairs. I've not made any blocks out of this. I'll go ahead and click open. Pause for a moment while it loads that information. And you can see it's just the drawing, nothing else. And I could technically click and drag that in. And let me go ahead and do that. Give it one click and bring it in. And I have now brought in the table and chairs into this file. And what you'll see is it's treating it all as one single object. It's basically gone from being its own drawing file, which it still is in my directory, but now that drawing file is a block within this drawing file, meaning that it doesn't have that DWG extension anymore. And they all came in as one. And what I need to do now is explode this and break it down to the individual lines. So while it's highlighted, I'm going to type X and enter, and that explodes it. And I'm back to the individual polylines that I had drawn, and I can go ahead and use this. And I did this on purpose. I brought it in because I wanted you to see how you can bring a drawing file in. But I also brought it in because I probably should have made the blocks first, then brought it in. So when it comes time to make the blocks, just either make the blocks ahead of time, it might save you some time, or as needed, make the blocks. It's your call to make whatever you'd like to do. And on this block here, I think I would pick an insertion point somewhere in the middle. Same thing with this table, somewhere in the middle. Same thing here. It'll vary. Your insertion points will be different for all of your blocks. All right. And then real quick, I'll just do a quick intro here. I have a block like this. And let's say that I wanted to change it. Let's say I wanted to put those cushions in there that were rounded. Um, I would have to explode the block and then add it and then make the block again. But there's a nice feature in AutoCAD, and that is the block editor. So with this block highlighted, I can right click and I can go to Block Editor. And when I click here, my screen will change. And the ribbon at the top changes. I'm still in the AutoCAD interface. However, it's changed. I am now in my block editing mode. So it's bringing in the block, and these are individual pieces, individual parts. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to add the cushions. So I'm in block editor, but there's nothing stopping me from coming over here to the home tab. And I have my draw panel, and I can draw arcs. And I believe it was the start end radius. Can't remember too well, but I'll give that a shot. Start end radius. Arcs go in counterclockwise direction. So I believe I start here. I end here. And then the radius right there, I'll give it a 2-foot radius. I'll type 2 feet, enter. And then all I will do is select it and then type CP to copy, enter. I'll copy it from this endpoint to that one, to that one. Tap the escape key. This line, don't need the whole line there right now. So I want to trim that. So I'll type
What's this about,
TR.
bro?
Okay. So what I'd like to do is trim this line out. So I'm going to type TR, enter, and I'll just trim these 3, enter. And that is the modification I wanted to make. And now I can go ahead and close the block editor, save changes, and you can see the changes have now been applied here. So that's nice, being able to edit a block. So things to keep in mind, and I'll do some more block editing later as well. So that's the general intro into creating blocks, creating Wblocks, inserting blocks, and inserting Wblocks. And just keep in mind that even though I brought in my tables and chairs, they are a block here, but it is still its own drawing file. So keep that in mind. All right, I think that'll do it. So again, make the blocks as needed and then use them as needed. They're huge time savers. Just think about this. All you have to do is just draw one table or draw a table once, make a block, and you can use it multiple times. So that's the real benefit of using blocks in AutoCAD. All right, thank you.